So the culture of high expectations, we want the students to set learning goals. We have particular things that we do that indicate to them we have these high expectations of them, like you know, no opt out. You cannot opt out of a discussion or a conversation or a question because you don't know the answer. We're here in a learning community. We can certainly find the answer to where you know it and can communicate that. And that is indicative of high expectations. Everybody's going to learn here today. Communicating your support to them, providing the support that they need, having teacher conferences with them to understand their needs better. Again, every conversation you have with the student that is outside of, just regular instruction helps build that relationship with the student academically and regarding
The
personal.
student get back on track. Let's sum this up. Teachers should set high standards to promote an atmosphere of learning where students are expected to work hard. The teacher can establish incentives for the class and for individuals to meet certain expectations. This lets students know what the teacher thinks they can do and creates a positive atmosphere of encouragement for students to meet expectations. Let's discuss more strategies for establishing high expectations. Students can be involved in establishing class norms of high expectations. Once students have spent some time in school, they know what a well-run classroom is like and are able to identify what is expected of them. Giving them the autonomy to discuss and make some decisions as a class will not only reinforce expectations, but will also encourage self-monitoring.
Okay, I can't tell you how useful, invaluable, effective it is to get students involvement in the beginning of the school year. During that first week that I'm, not on the scope and sequence, I am having discussions for sure on one of the days with the students regarding expectations, right? Behavior expectations necessary to achieve the goals we discussed. And by involving them, again, you're engaging them in this social contract. It helps further solidify that community sense, but it's also doing something else for them developmentally. Depending on the age group that we're doing this with, some students, even up until high school, don't make a lot of choices for themselves. And so they do need practice in building autonomy, building, responsible taking responsible choices and making mistakes. And so all of this very, very important. And I highly recommend it because you will have significantly less behavioral problems with students who were there involved in a discussion regarding what is going to be our behavioral expectations for this class. Like we know what we need to do. What does it need to be like in the classroom in order for us to get stuff done? In order for things to move smoothly and everyone to feel comfortable. You're not going to have those problems. They were there, they were part of the discussion, and short of a family tragedy and the students sort of freaking out, which can happen, the students are going to abide by this social contract.
Some classes even create and sign class contracts to keep the expectations posted and clear and hold all accountable for following them. With older students, teachers can provide and explain a syllabus to explain the course curriculum, expectations, and major assignment due dates. Students are set up for success when they clearly know what to expect.
So that's another thing that I highly recommend, even if it's not a syllabus like you guys. Um, some people said no. Why are you guys saying no in the chat box? Can you hear me? Okay. Um, I always provided my students with a syllabus, and my first year of teaching was seventh grade. And I remember nobody in my team did that. And it wasn't a syllabus like for college, but it sort of laid out all of the things that we were going to do, and it was based on our scope and sequence. And I And obviously when I taught high school, I definitely did. And when I taught AP and then the concurrent enrollment classes for the university, I for sure had to have a syllabus. But having the different texts we're going to read, the different things we're going to do, as much information as possible to create the clearest picture of what is going to be done. Having those conversations about the types of things we'll be doing, the types, and then after they know this is where we're going, let's talk about how things need to go while it's happening. Like what are the behavioral expectations in order for us to do well on this in this class. Building autonomy, very, very important for our students. Physical spaces for learning, talking about proximity, that's how close you are. The closer you are to the students, the more effective you're going to be. It's science. It's like the zone of proximal development. And the most knowledgeable other, the MKO, I believe it is you in the classroom. And so I sort of cringe. And I know it has to happen because sometimes I would be sitting at my desk when somebody came in and I'd be like, gosh darn it, I just sat down to send this thing off, you know? But being there amongst the students, really important. Listening to their conversations, collecting that data, that informal formative assessments, being near them. And so interior design is also part of an educator's job. That's why people don't really understand what actually goes into being a teacher, like all of the aspects that we consider in order to make our daily science experiments, which is our learning objective for our students. But even the way in which we design the space is important for what we do. There are different setups that work better for different activities, for different learning goals. And I'm sure they'll explain to us right here. Seating arrangements. If a student asks to sit in the front of the classroom and you have a seating chart already out and they're like, you know, second to the last in the back and they want to sit in the front, please allow them to. If a student is brave enough to voice their needs, learning needs to you, accommodate those. And then say, I really appreciate that you are able to tell me that you need to be sitting in the front. Um, because they're letting you know I get distracted easily or I can't see well and I haven't gotten my new glasses yet. Whatever the you don't even need to hear the reason. If they ask to sit in the front of the classroom or, somewhere else reasonable for please allow them to do that.
Did you know interior design would be part of your job as an educator? Really, there are important considerations to make when designing the layout of your classroom. Both instructional activities and the needs of the students should be taken into account. These questions can guide the physical layout of a classroom. Are all students able to access what they need in the space? Do all students have a clear view of what or who they need to see? Can the teacher see and easily reach all students? Teachers should also consider special needs students may have. As an example, students with hearing or vision exceptionalities should be close to the instructor. Teachers should be mindful that the student seating arrangement works in conjunction with the instructional activity. In other words, different setups lend themselves best to different tasks. When listening to any type of presentation, whether it be from the teacher, a guest speaker, or fellow classmates, students should all be able to see. Facing front typically works best. When the whole class is having a discussion, it's helpful for everyone to be seen. When collaborating on a group assignment, it's beneficial for students to sit together. The walkways should be open so the teacher can easily move to check on each group. And when the teacher is working with a small group of students, the rest of the class should still be in view. No matter the arrangement, teachers should remember that proximity and visibility are imperative tools for monitoring student needs and behavior. You should always be able to easily see and walk to your students. So remember, the physical classroom layout should meet students' needs, reflect instructional goals, and support student behavior.
So something that they don't mention here, but that's really important to consider when you're doing like seating arrangements is that your students are also a resource for you and other students. Our GT students, our high performing students are going to finish things quickly. They're going to get board, and having them next to someone or partnered next to someone, if you have that seating arrangement, or if you do think pair shares, making sure that your EB students are paired with someone who maybe speaks their language and English, you know, as their native language, but keeping those instructional needs or student needs regarding your instruction. Because if you put, you have an amazing seating chart, and maybe you've thought about the special needs students and where they need to sit, but you didn't think about your EB students and their placement and who they're going to be paired up with for Think Pair Shares. It might not be fruitful, those conversations. So our students' needs really play a large part in seating chart and seating arrangement. A lot of thought goes into it. And then depending on the activity, you might, need to move the desks around. Whenever they have students in the groups, I like to leave one chair open if I can, like if my chairs and the students allow it, so that I go and I will just pop into the different groups and be part of their conversation, listening to what they're talking about, moving around, but being immersed with them, engaged with them in the learning process is always going to yield better results. Okay, Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And we know about this. If a student can't um think because they're hungry, or they didn't sleep, or they're dehydrated because they don't get enough water, those basic needs, just like learning is not going to take place. The body and brain needs to be comfortable, in harmony, comfortable, both body and brain. And so that's what Maslow's hierarchy of needs is about, sort of discussing all of the different ways, that students, may manifest a need, and it can and will impede on their success academically, and what we can do to help that. And so here they go, and we'll look at the video really quickly, but um the psychological needs: food, water, shelter, safety, security, freedom from fear. So if they're in a, house and their parents are having a very contentious divorce under one roof, then the student is going to be a little bit in need in that way. They're not going to be on their A game. Love, belonging within relationships and family, their self-esteem, their confidence, or their feelings of achievement. And our special ed students struggle a lot with this because they think that the special ed label automatically means that they're deficient in some ways, and it's just simply not the case. Everybody learns differently, and they just need a certain set of supports. And so being mindful of that and providing our students with the things that they need, to help them with their self-esteem, confidence, or respect or recognition. That can only happen if we're doing activities that build their confidence, that allow them to practice and show and receive respect and recognition. So giving them opportunities to have little achievements.
Abraham Maslow was an American psychologist who focused on humanistic psychology. Maslow's work was influenced by many, including the Native American Blackfoot people. Maslow theorized that all people have a hierarchy of needs. In order for people to meet their full potential, they must meet a series of needs. If one or some of the needs at a more basic level are not met, it is difficult to begin meeting needs at higher levels. These human needs are often organized visually in the shape of a pyramid. At the base of our pyramid are the most vital and basic human needs: These are called physiological needs and include food and water. Once those needs are met, an individual needs safety. This level means that humans will require security and a freedom from fear before they look to the next level of needs. That next level is searching for love and belonging. This includes individual friendships, relationships, and family bonds. After humans secure these three levels, they seek out esteem. We all look for confidence, validation, and feelings of achievement. When we have all four of those levels met, we move to the top of our pyramid. The final individual step at the top of Maslow's hierarchy of needs is self-actualization. Once all of our other human needs are met, we strive for more in the form of meeting our potential and expanding our creative abilities.
So the student feels fulfilled enough to reach those dreams and expectations that they have for themselves. But a lot of students come into our classroom hungry or sleep deprived or going through one thing or another. And so the point of us even thinking about Maslow's hierarchy of needs regarding education is we know their brain, they cannot reach self-actualization. They can't get to the highest level of cognition and where they're creating and synthesizing if they are lacking in these areas. And we try to level the playing field. I know that even at my daughter's school, the parents, we often the girl's dad and I donate boxes and boxes of snacks to the girls' classroom. So if they get hungry during the day, they can eat a snack. The brain needs food. And if somebody doesn't have snacks coming from home, we still want for them, their brains to be on their A game. And so those little things that we do to sort of level the playing field for our students.
Creative abilities. Using this template, teachers should ask the following questions to make sure students are ready to reach their potential. Are my students fed and hydrated? Do my students feel safe and secure in the classroom? Do my students have a sense of belonging in the classroom? Are my students recognized for their achievements and positive qualities?
It's really important that we take the time to recognize achievements and positive qualities, even with our students who maybe have behavioral issues, and especially with them actually. If they came in four times out of the week and just sat down and wrote it down, I am going to be singing their praises and say 4 out of 5. That is awesome. You get 4 out of 5 stars for a hotel. That's pretty awesome. Like, this is almost perfect. That was really good. Even though it wasn't perfect for that student, and in order to build the confidence, that you need to have recognition, even for the little achievements, even for the things that maybe somebody doesn't think someone needs to be praised for. We have to know our students and what they need, and in order to be present in the classroom, active in the classroom.
While teachers cannot control every factor in a student's life, there are strategies to use to help meet all students' needs while they're at school. For example, to help a student develop a sense of belonging, the teacher could strategically seat them next to an especially friendly and accepting classmate. So remember, Maslow's theory is important in the field of education.
I'm telling you guys, your students are a resource, but honestly, you can't even use the resource without first knowing who your kids are. But you can play checkers with your seating arrangement to maximize efficiency in your classroom. Put the GT students next to the struggling learner and allow them to have conversations. I always use my daughters or my children as an example, but one of my daughters is GT and she often finishes her fourth grade work quickly, and she has a friend who struggles because this is her first year in public school. She's been homeschooled prior and had only ever attended, like, I think 1 year of private school. So she's behind and she struggles. And so my daughter really tries to help her, and she came and said she got in trouble. She didn't get in trouble. She just said, Ziri, don't talk to her, let her do it by herself. But it was just an activity. It wasn't a quiz. It wasn't an assessment. And that really is not making use of your resources. First of all, Zuri is bored because she finished, and she could be possibly explaining what this girl is struggling with in a way that is different than what the teacher explained because it clearly wasn't working. So making sure that you're making the most of, student placement so that they can be a resource to each other.
Because teachers must consider that students are not ready and able to meet their full potential if their other needs are not met.
Okay, so that was our last one. And we are videoing this because Miss Shea specifically asked. So we're just gonna review this before we go to the flashcards. Who wants to tell me what makes the positive classroom? Why is it important to have a positive class community in your classroom to foster that? Does somebody want to summarize it? If you summarize it, you will learn it better than your peers. Why is it important to have that positive classroom community?
If the students feel safe, they're gonna want to try to answer questions and without that fear of being like ridiculed. So that it helps with the students attempting to learn or making mistakes like without fear.
Okay, yeah, they sense of security, they feel comfortable. We know from Maslow's hierarchy of needs that feeling safe and secure is one of those needs, right? It's like towards the bottom level, and then feeling confident. So that positive classroom community that we build is in part the expectations and the behavioral and academic that we have, but also our attitude, right? And all of this yields better classroom engagement. If you go into a classroom, I guarantee you, and the teacher just does direct instruction, no scaffolds, straight to independent practice. Students are going to be messing around. You're going to have a lot of incomplete assignments where questions weren't answered. And the students don't feel comfortable to ask you, can I have clarification on this? Like, I get what you were saying, but I also don't understand. They have to feel comfortable to say that to you. It might feel uncomfortable to say, I know you just did this whole shebang about what diction is, but I still kind of don't get it. They have to feel comfortable to say that, or else they won't. And our EB students don't even have the language proficiency to say it. So we have to be the ones to do those checks for understanding. Learning who our students are, knowing what they need, making them feel seen and important is central to building a community. You can't be part of a community you don't feel like you're part of. That's not a thing, that's a thing. To be in a community, you feel you are part of it. You see yourself in this place. And we have to build that environment every single year with new students. And if you're a secondary teacher, you're building it with multiple periods. And if you're on a AB schedule, you're building it with multiple periods on multiple days. So it's a lot, but it's necessary. We cannot fully do the job to the best of our ability if we do not have a good, strong class culture where there is like law and order and respect. We have fun, but we are not going to disrespect people. There are boundaries. And that has to happen in the beginning of the year, or if whenever you go in, if you go in mid-year and you're the new teacher and you start in October, cool. Take a few days to learn these people and have them learn you before you jump into like, andale, let's go with the work. Well, who are you? What are we doing? I don't even know you. You don't know me, or what I need in order to do well in this class. So pause a little bit, invest in building the class community. And it's not always going to be positive. Sometimes I have left my coffee at home and been a little bit snippy and had my student in second period say, "Did you have your coffee this morning?" Just like, but that's how comfortable they felt to like notice, first of all, that no, I spilled it on the way into the building. Thank you for asking. I appreciate you. But you have to have a positive classroom community. They have to feel like they trust you and know you, and building that integral into student success. Keeping and having and building a culture of high expectations, very important, because our students will rise to our expectations. I have been flabbergasted and mind blown with my students and what they could do just based on my high expectations and telling them I believe they can do it, and they did it. It's just almost like magic, but not, because you have to foster and create this culture of high expectations in your daily exercises, in the conversations that you have. I always had conversations with my students on how they were doing in other classes, because we could see their grades, especially during progress report. And if they are getting 98s in my class and they're struggling in other ones, like, I want to know what's going on. What is it? Is it the content stuff? Like, what's happening there? Culture of high expectations does not finish with my classroom. It's throughout. Like, what needs to happen? You have a 72 that's scary close to not being passing. Let us figure out what's happening so we can move you out of that area. Let's find out what you need. And then helping them find what they need takes less than 10 minutes. But it's important, and it again reinforces to the student, I have high expectations for you everywhere, not just in my class. Okay, so student engagement. We're going to breeze through these because there's only three of them for some reason. The level of attention and the interest that students demonstrate while learning. And so when we want to increase student engagement, we already know that communication, giving them activities where they can work with each other, increases the engagement. Building background knowledge increases their engagement, and being in a learning environment that is conducive to learning because you feel important and safe and wanted and valued increases your level of attention. Autonomy. Autonomy is sense of self, your ability to self-govern or self-motivate, to do for yourself, to make choices, to make decisions. And our students haven't had a lot of practice with autonomy. So the more we give them, the better they become at it. And the more engaged they are, to be honest with you. That's why whenever we give them choices for their activities, not only will that increase their motivation because they're already interested in it, it's going to increase their autonomy because they are making the decision. They are self-governing what activity or assessment they're going to be used to be measured with. Abraham Maslow, the theorist that came up with Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and all very important points that we know for sure are fact. Okay. So we're going to go through these and do what we normally do. We're going to read the question mindfully. And as we're reading it, we're looking for things that stand out that we might want to consider or pay attention to. This looks like an easy peasy one, but 7 classes, yes. So, the basic needs of a human, such as hunger and thirst, must be met before a person can move on to more complex needs, such as safety, belonging, and self-confidence. These ideas are the work of which theorists? So, we don't need to do that much analysis. Basics of human needs, hunger, thirst, moving on to belonging, safety, self-confidence, and we're looking for a theorist. So we have Skinner, Piaget, Maslow, Erickson. What can we eliminate? Because that is not what we're talking about. Are people saying things in the chat? I never know.
Skinner?
Skinner.
Yeah, Skinner. This is not Skinner's theory. We can get rid of Skinner. Oops. What else?
Piaget.
Piaget. It's not Piaget. And I'm talking about pre-operational, operational, sensory.
Maslow.
You want to eliminate Maslow or keep him?
Oh no. I'm sorry. Is the right question.
Yeah, that's the right answer is
Is
Maslow.
is
Yes,
the
the
right
answer is C for sure. That's what I think. So we'll see. We haven't been able to, I don't think yet. We've been tricked at least on one question each round. I know this one is right. Maslow's hierarchy of needs, we know, shows how emotional needs develop, and we know how it affects those cognitive needs. Okay, here we have a third grade student informs the teacher that he is constantly being called inappropriate names by other students in the classroom. He feels that he does not belong to any group of students in the classroom. The teacher monitors the behavior of the students and agrees that the student is frequently excluded from activities. How should the teacher respond to the situation? Okay, we've mindfully read. Now, before we go to the answer choices, we are going to go back to and we're going to look for any keywords and phrases. Do we see anything that is important that we should consider?
Third grade student.
Right, they're third graders. They're third graders, so they're 9 and 10. And then we have inappropriate names, does not belong, frequently excluded. And what is the question asking us in layman's terms? And remember, I like for you to try to say what the question is asking, just not in pedagogical jargon, but just in plain speak. What are they asking?
Respond of the teacher.
Yeah, what should the teacher say, right? What should a teacher do and respond regarding this they're in third grade. He feels like he doesn't belong. She monitors and agrees. She's saying like, okay, he is being excluded. How should she respond? What should she do as a result of this? A, the teacher should design collaborative group and team building activities to promote a learning environment, inclusion for all students so they feel a sense of belonging and safety. B, the teacher should allow the student to address the situation with the primary students who exclude him. C, the teacher should coach the student on how to respond to the primary students who exclude him. D, the teacher should tell the students to include him in all of the activities or be prepared to have additional classwork. What can we eliminate?
D?
D, okay. It is never, ever appropriate to punish students with work, ever. You're gonna have to write an essay about this if you don't do this. Never do that. Work should not be punishment ever. Apart from being illegal, it also really does a number on us trying to like have the students enjoy the work that they do have to do, which is already a struggle. So this D could never be the right answer. What else can we eliminate and bet ourselves $5 is not the right answer? You see what y'all are saying in the chat.
D?
Yeah, some people said D and somebody else said C. Why can we eliminate C, Kelly? Why is C totally not the right answer? Or Marla? Okay, we're not going to coach the students and say, well, we'll go up there and tell them this, and that because they excluded you. And like, yeah, teaching, coaching, no. Yeah, we're not going to tell them what to go say. Um, and I also don't believe it is a good idea to tell them to the student, go handle it yourself. Go tell them how you feel about excluding them. So no coaching the student, no just letting the student handle it on its own. It's our job to teach the students not to be little jerkos to each other, not to exclude people because they're different or not part of your friend group. That is our job to build a sense of community and to make sure that the students are able to collaborate because they're in third grade right now and they're already, you know, excluding this student, and it will continue if it's not nipped in the bud in third grade and if it continues again in fourth grade. So the teacher should design collaborative group and team building activities to promote a learning environment inclusive for all students so that they feel a sense of belonging and safety. So doing some group activities, team building activities where they are forced to collaborate and work together with the guidance of the teacher to increase the, you know, sense of belonging and reinforce. I still think that a conversation needs to be had with the students who are excluding. Um, And honestly, sometimes like I don't know if they're here right now and I honestly forget who said it, but it was one of our past classes that a student was saying that he has a great kid in his class, great student. He's on the spectrum and that he has to sit him away from people because he just farts. Like he just farts whenever, you know what I mean? And it's really, really, really hard. Like in that situation. I mean, I've had those types of conversations with students, but it's even though it's hard and the students are gonna like not want to be around if you're just gonna be farting all the time. And I can just imagine if it's like junior high what that would be like, but having also conversations when need be with the students because our special ed students sometimes need more social emotional support and development, more conversations about what's appropriate in a social setting and what's not. Again, if we don't nip these behaviors in the bud now, they are going to solidify and continue for all of adulthood. Excluding people, being mean, bullying, farting in public, all of those things are remedied in public schools. So, all right, 2 for 2. So, a new freshman teacher plans to place her class in instructional groups by their achievement scores of last year. She announces that each group will have different assignments based on their level of past performance. Which of the following would best predict her students' attitudes and behavior using this practice? Again, we don't ever jump right into the answer choices. What is important here? What keywords do you see that maybe we should pay attention to?
A freshman teacher.
Right, and a new one,
New.
not just,
Right.
yeah, a new freshman teacher, right? What else is important?
Instructional groups.
Yeah, so she's going to group them by their achievement score from last year. Their instructional groups based on their achievement score from last year. Then she announces to each group will have different assignments based on their last level of performance. And the question is asking us for what? What is the question asking us?
For sure, underline would best predict.
Right, for sure.
For
Best
sure.
predict. Students' attitudes and behavior. So, attitudes and behavior, how are they going to feel doing this assignment, this practice. Let's take a look at what our answer choices are. A, the students would look forward to working with their teacher on a one-on-one basis more often than working in a group. B, the students would rise to the occasion and feel comfortable in taking on leadership roles and would achieve success. C, the students would feel the teacher does not have very high learning expectations of all the groups and would feel marginalized. D, the students would welcome working in groups with their peers. Remember, we don't go towards the correct answer. We are going to use process of elimination to eliminate bad answer choices. Somebody eliminate one for $5 that you could bet is not the right answer.
C.
B. Yes. It's not going to make people feel inspired to and more comfortable take on leadership roles. Like it is going to make people feel uncomfortable. Okay. What else can we eliminate?
Is it A?
A, there was not even any mention of one-on-one in the scenario, so that this and there's no indication that they would enjoy that more or that was even a plan.
A, B, and D.
A,
I
B,
would eliminate A, B, and D.
A, B, and D, that's right. So they might welcome working in peers. They might. But then they're going to sit with their peers and say, so what? We got like different things. They get to do the manipulative one, or they're doing, it's going to not work well. And does that mean that you can't ever have small group instruction for students that need particular skills? No, that's not what that means. But that's not going to be your formal way of instruction. People are learning different things. There's one learning objective for the class, and I expect everyone to be able to achieve it. I know we will be able to. And if some people need extra things like a graphic organizer or more, exemplars, more examples to help illustrate the concept, then that's fine. Then I'll do that. But everyone is going to be able to achieve the same level. I mean, it's the same exam, but she's giving totally different lessons to different groups based on their performance. Not even, based on their particular area of need. So that's just I put all the C's in here. That they could be C's because for different reasons. They could have been, you know, uh, had difficulty with reading comprehension and somebody else with writing, and you just sort of lumped them together. That does nothing, and it would be very off-putting for the students. They can tell if you believe in them or not. And if you are grouping them by how poorly they did on their last exam, they're going to know that you think poorly of them and their abilities. A fourth grade science teacher plans an experiment where students can freely manipulate the material, compare progress, and share their conclusions with classmates. Which of the following is best demonstrated in the teacher's instructional strategy? Let's go back. What is important for us to pay attention to? Grade levels or age groups are important. Time markers before, during, and after. What's important?
Fourth grade.
Fourth grade. They're EC, elementary through sixth grade. What about freely manipulate? What other keywords and phrases do you think are important for us to be able to choose the best answer? Because it has that word best in it. They use the word best or most. It's likely they've given you two okay answers. One is best based on best practice, based on what they've said in the scenario, and what we've identified in our keywords and phrases. What else?
Compare progress
Right. Compare progress.
and share. Their inclusion. Their
Share
conclusion.
conclusions. So we're looking, which of the following is best demonstrated in the teacher's instructional strategy? So demonstrated, fancy word for show. What is best shown by the teacher using this instructional strategy? A, students must have peer interaction to obtain new knowledge. B, the student's ability to learn is greatest when they direct their own learning. C, active engagement in the instructional activities greatly increases students' learning ability. D, student involvement in classroom activity increases with a decrease in classroom structure. Okay, what can we eliminate and bet ourselves $5 is not the correct answer. You
I
have to
would
bet yourself.
eliminate the A, B, and D.
Okay, so tell me one at a time. Which one is your like this one is for sure wrong. I can bet myself $100.
A.
The A.
A, right? They don't have to have peer interaction to acquire new knowledge. Does it help solidify new knowledge? Yes, it does. But that's not even what we're talking about here. What else can we eliminate and why? Why do you say B? I think Carlos,
B.
you said B.
Yeah.
Why did you say
Yeah,
B?
because it doesn't have any connection with the level of learning if they do by itself or not.
Okay, I see what
That's
you're
not.
saying. But I didn't I felt like I would eliminate D before I would eliminate B because they're freely manipulating the material, which means they're directing it, like they're directing how they're using the material. And then they're comparing their progress with each other and sharing their conclusions. Again,
Yeah,
uh,
exactly.
so and I'm not saying it's the right answer, but I feel better eliminating this D because it's preposterous. It's ridiculous. Student involvement in classroom activities does not decrease when you have class structure. I think that's what it's saying, right? What is that what it said? Because this is in my way, the chat box. He says
Please,
student involvement in classroom activities increases with a decrease in classroom structure. That's preposterous. No. So actually, the less classroom structure you have, the more chaos you're going to have, the more distractions, the less sort of involvement and engagement. So there must be classroom structure of some shape and form. So D is absolutely, I can bet myself $100 that one is not it. And we're left with B and C. And I always tell you guys, whenever they use the word most or best, it is likely they have given you two okay answers. And one is better based on what we know is best practice and the things that they've told us, the keywords and phrases that we identified. So we're looking for the best description of the teacher's use of the strategy, the reason, I suppose. So
I
the
think active engagement is a better answer than the student's ability to learn is greater when they direct their own learning.
right, I think so too, because they're freely manipulating, which is in part directing, but then and that's active engagement already. And then they're comparing progress with like going in and that's active engagement. And then they're sharing their conclusions también. Again, that's active engagement. Again, reinforcing. So I think you guys are right. And I think that C
I
is
think B is better than C. Well,
we'll see. You think B is better than C? I mean, because they are, and it is
I
science.
think so. I think so because this is very specific. Manipulate the material.
It is um let me see. What do you guys think? Let's see. Oh yeah. So I think because in only one portion they directed it, but when they direct their own learning, it is their learning is stronger. That's why we do inquiry-based learning, right? And student-centered learning, because we know that that type of learning resonates more deeply with our students. But I think because of the fact that it was like three different activities, it was them manipulating the material and they're super engaged because why? Because they're directing their own learning. And they're freely manipulating it. But then they're also engaging in this activity where they monitor the progress, but also compare it with their peers. Then they share their conclusions. So each of the different instructional activities, the student is engaged.
But another thing we must to see, I think, is the question is asking about the best demonstrated in the teacher instructional strategy.
Right,
So I think the active engaged is more answer more this question.
right,
My personal example for this kind of question is like I've taken my kids to the museum or and there's a sandbox and they play with the sandbox and it shows you levels of the like you make a mountain or if it's a depression that has water
right,
and they play with it and then they discuss it and they you know that's where they compare their progress and they
right,
conclusions. So like that's kind of like where they're freely manipulating the material like the sandbox.
right.
So I kind of internalize it and like is there a scenario where this happened to me where I can kind of like uh get
Envision it.
envision it.
All right. Yeah, that was a tricky one. But they were doing some self-direction there, and that's why it was tricky. But the larger aspect, it best demonstrated that active engagement involved in all of the activities of the experiment. So now we're on to eighth grade students are about to engage in peer assessment activity prior to the completion of a summative project. Which of the following would be the best tool for the teacher to use to help ensure positive student interactions during this activity? All right, so what is important? What do you guys see that we should underline and just make note while before we do our process of elimination?
Eighth grade students.
Thank you, Isa. I was waiting for somebody, guys. Anytime it's a grade level or an age group, please just make note of it because we do different things at different stages of their development, right? EC through six, we deal with them in a different way. They're two very within that pocket, two very distinct cognitive levels that the students are in. And likewise, secondary. So these are eighth grade students. What else? What else is important for us to pay attention to? Are there
They're
any time
they're about to engage in a
engage,
peer assessment activity.
peer assessment activity, any time markers?
Um, Summative.
Prior.
Prior. Prior
Prior.
means
Okay.
before. Prior to this summative project they're going to do. So before the summative project, they're going to do a peer assessment. Student to student assessment. Which of the following would be the best tool for the teacher to use to help ensure, make sure it happens, positive student interactions during this activity? Another time marker during this activity. The goal for the teacher in this scenario is to ensure positive student interactions. They're going to do this peer assessment, meaning they're going to be assessing each other before they complete a summative project. And we want to make sure that this is a positive student interaction. How can we do that? Let's take a look at these answer choices. A, carefully monitoring student interactions and intervening when necessary. B, encouraging students to only provide positive feedback. C, reminding students prior to the start of the activity to be kind to each other. D, providing sentence frames for constructive feedback. Okay, guys, so remember, we've read the answer choices, we've analyzed the question. Remember, this is eighth grade peer assessment, meaning they're going to be grading each other, and that always works well with eighth graders. And so we want to make sure this is a positive interaction and they get something out of it, right? It's meant, and this is meant to be a positive and meaningful interaction. So, what can we eliminate? Because this is absolutely not the way to ensure this happens.
I would eliminate A because you're just monitoring and I think the best thing would be to like provide some kind of instruction before because you're this is all prior to the completion of some other project.
Right.
If you're just monitoring for it, like you're not being proactive, you're being reactive.
Right, exactly. So you're just going to wait for some stuff to go down during the peer interactions and intervene when necessary? No, I'm sorry. You have to set the expectations. You're right. And there needs to be some sort of something, framework, a conversation. What else can we eliminate? I have somebody wanting to eliminate B. Why is B not the right answer? And we can bet ourselves $5 it's not.
I think because if other kids think that any peer need to improve something that is not exactly something positive, uh,
Right. If I'm assessing your paper and you have a lot of like run-on sentences, then I'm gonna have to tell you that. And that's not always positive feedback. So sometimes constructive criticism is needed.
yes.
Criticism is needed in order for learning. So we have to look at our flaws and our weaknesses in order to become stronger. So he absolutely is out. We're left with C and D. Reminding students prior to the start of the activity to be kind to each other or providing sentence frames for constructive feedback.
I think I would eliminate the C and I keep with the D first because the question is asking for a tool. For me, this word tool show me about something that the teacher use as a tool. No, I don't eliminate the okay. I don't eliminate the D. I will eliminate the C, but eliminate the
Oh,
C
sorry,
because
sorry, not
I think that
eliminate. I went the wrong way.
I don't eliminate it. I eliminate the C, but the C mostly because I think even in eighth grade, as a social community behavior, the kids should know they should be kind with each other. Even giving a negative feedback or something, it should be kind. They should know that as a
Right.
social rule. It's not something that need to say, hey, be kind. And
Right. Absolutely. And so, unfortunately, a lot of our students might not know the words with which to fashion together to say things that aren't positive, that is criticism in a constructive way, which is why D is important. D is important because it's helping with like the academics of it, right? The content, but it's also building the student's ability that not you'd be surprised sixth, seventh, eighth graders, they don't have the ability to give real constructive feedback in a way that sometimes doesn't come out snarky. And it doesn't matter. You could tell them to be kind to each other, and that's not enough. That doesn't mean that they can say you have run-on sentences, and so maybe breaking them apart and combining some of those sentences or revising like whatever the sentence frames say, providing them with this is a scaffold or a support, a tool. And that was an excellent identification of a key word. We're looking for something that is an actual tool. Sentence frames are a tool. Reminding students to be kind to each other is not a tool. That's just you saying something.
exactly. Even I would like to add with the letter C what you say. I think our function as a teacher is not only teach the subject, it's part of the education in general. And we
Yes.
know that although those students coming from a different background, different social status, and for sure coming with this thing in our I think our objective is guide them, instruct them, and educate them in general. So I think it's
Right.
part of it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So providing students with ideas for how to word, and that's what I mean. It's not even sometimes that they want to be mean to each other. They lack the language proficiency. In the beginning of the class, I talked about how we all have different levels of language proficiency. And so providing our students with an example, several of examples, so that they can provide constructive feedback. It's an invaluable tool that helps the students organize their thoughts, their ideas in constructive ways, and it helps them to give more specific feedback also. It helps them be less general instead of saying like, oh, this was good or this part was confusing. If they have to use these particular sentence frames, then they're going to be looking for those, those things to fill in the blank and are going to give more specific, detailed feedback. And it's likely to be a more positive interaction. At the beginning of the school year, a fourth grade teacher takes a collaborative approach to setting rules and expectations by asking students for their input. The teacher, the students and teacher work together to establish a set of agreed upon expectations for their classroom. Which of the following teacher statements helps to convey a sense of shared responsibility, respect, and high expectations for behavior? Okay, so before we go to our answer choices, we are going to analyze the question. What's important? Any time markers?
Beginning of the year,
The beginning of the year,
great teacher.
fourth grade.
Collaborative approach.
Yes, the collaborative approach.
So she's asking the students for their input.
Yeah, students' input. They work together,
Work together.
agreed upon expectations. So we're looking for and I'm going to change my color. We're looking for a teacher statement that helps
Helps.
say,
Helps.
helps convey. Convey is a fancy word for show or tell a sense of shared responsibility,
Respect.
respect, and high expectations for behavior.
Expectations for
Our
behavior.
statement, whatever the correct word is, has to uh, give a sense of all of those things, that shared responsibility, respect, and high expectations. So we have A. We have chosen these rules and expectations for now, but keep in mind that I have the right to change them if I choose. B. Since we have established these rules together, I expect you to hold each other accountable for following them. C. I like the rules and expectations we've come up with so far. Does anyone have any other suggestions? D. In this classroom, these are the expectations for how we will interact. This applies to how you treat one another, how you treat me, and how I treat you. Okay, what can we eliminate? Because this is absolutely not the best teacher statement to convey shared responsibility, respect, and high expectations for behavior.
Definitely
Okay.
eliminate the A.
A for sure. But keep in mind, business, the shared responsibility and all of that activity working together goes out the window. So that's out.
Do you want me to explain?
Which one?
No. I thought you wanted me to explain why the.
No. Which other one
Okay.
would you like to eliminate?
Okay.
I'd like to eliminate C, kind of
C.
get rid of
Yeah.
it, not set in stone. Because like, does anyone have any other suggestions? Like, it's open ended. Like,
Yeah, no, it's not. They already agreed upon expectations. The discussion is over. So we're left with B and D. Since we've established these rules together, I expect you to hold each other accountable for them. In this class, these are the expectations for how we will interact. This applies to how you treat one another, how you treat me, and how I treat you. So
I
of
will
these
eliminate the B.
B,
Yeah, I would eliminate the B
yeah, why can we eliminate B and why is that not the best response?
because we are working a work collaborative approach with everybody. Everyone agree. It's not something that I expect you should do this. It's like it
Yeah.
sounds like very individual behavior.
And then this one she says, and it's sort of and it just sets high expectations. In this classroom, everybody, this is
Yes,
how we will interact, myself
exactly.
included. So you with other people, you with me with you, and me with y'all, all of us. This is for how we will interact. It sets the high expectations in this classroom. We're going to respect everyone, and it's our shared responsibility to make it happen.
Yes.
All right, let's see. Hey. So this
Go.
statement demonstrates that to the students that everyone in this classroom is held to the same set of established behavior expectations, and that everyone is responsible for treating each other with respect based on agreed upon standards. I can't expect my students to respect me if I don't respect them. If I'm making them feel bad, I've seen teachers, unfortunately, in their passive aggressive microaggression ways sort of bullying students. That's not going to help. That is not going to make the student respect you or work harder for you or behave better for you. It literally does the opposite. And I know it's like the natural sort of reaction when someone is going against the rules or making you feel disrespected, but we have to always remember that these are children we're dealing with at different stages of development, none of which are going to be fully developed before they leave any of our classrooms. So keep that in mind. Okay. A new teacher is setting up her classroom and wants to ensure the space is ideal for learning. Which of the following is the least important question this teacher should ask when determining the layout of the classroom? We talked about how teachers are also interior designers. They can take interior design and also science to come up with best practice. So, what is important for us to pay attention to before we go to these answer choices?
New teacher.
New teacher,
Space ideal for learning.
a space that is ideal for learning, and we want to ensure that's the goal question. We want to ensure that it is ideal for learning. And we're not looking for the answer that is
The
correct.
least important.
Yeah, the least important question a teacher should ask themselves when we consider the layout of the classroom. So we have A, are there any things in the space that might hinder a student's ability to perform in the space? B, are all students able to access what they need in the space? C, are the colors matching in the space and does it look appealing? D, do all of the students have a clear view of the teacher if needed at all times? What can we eliminate? Because this is an important question and you should for sure ask that. D, absolutely. Can I be seen from everywhere, no matter what, with student small group? It's important. Visible at all times. What else can we eliminate? Because this is for sure a question you want to ask yourself. D and
B.
B. Yes, because we absolutely need to ask ourselves, can the students access what they need? If some students can't get some things because it's too high, then you have to fix it. You can't put it there. Or there needs to be a safe stool or something. Is it everything accessible? Can the students access their learning space? Very important question for us to ask ourselves as teachers when we are building our classroom layout in the beginning of the school year. We're looking for the least important question that we should ask ourselves. So we're left with A and C. Of these two, which is an important question and can be eliminated?
A.
A.
A for sure, right? A, are there any things in the space that might hinder a student's ability to perform in the space if they can't walk by? If you have students in a wheelchair and they can't get by or are using crutches? I mean, considering your students' needs, and is there anything that is impeding any needs they might have? The least important question when we are determining a layout, and layout honestly doesn't have anything to do with decor, but is the color matching and does this space look appealing? On some level, I think that the classroom should look appealing, but it's not most important when we're determining the layout. That's where we're physically putting furniture in the classroom. Guys, I think that we're actually maybe I don't want to jinx it. I don't want to say it, but I think we might get 100 on this one. We're on question eight, and we haven't gotten any incorrect. A teacher is setting up the classroom at the beginning of the school. At the beginning of the school year. The teacher will have two students with physical impairments. Which of the following questions is the most important point for the teacher to consider? Okay, what's important for us in the question scenario?
A teacher setting up her classroom
Setting up her classroom. What else?
at the beginning
Beginning
of
of.
the school.
Beginning of the school year. What else?
Student with physical impairment.
Physical impairments, which means you're setting up your classroom. You need to take that into consideration and make sure some questions are asked about needs of those students. So we're going to look for a question. Last time it was what was least important question.
Most
We're looking
important.
for
The
most
most
important.
important.
Exactly. So A, is the layout conducive to group work? B, does the classroom layout allow students to easily navigate the room? C, does the layout minimize the need for students to get up from their desks? D, is the layout of the room aesthetically pleasing? What can we eliminate because it is absolutely not the most important thing to consider? Let's hear it, guys. One of these is out for sure.
B.
D, for sure. Doesn't matter if it's aesthetically pleasing.
Doesn't.
And certainly not for students with physical impairments. So what else can we eliminate? Because that's not important when we're dealing with students with physical impairments.
C.
Right. So does it maximize the need or minimize the need for students to get up from their desk? Well, just because they have physical impairments doesn't mean that we want for them to just stay seated the whole time and not have to
Exactly.
move around. Like so that we don't need to ask ourselves this question. So what else can we eliminate? A,
And A.
not the most important question, although it is a question I would ask myself, regarding the students with physical impairments.
The physical impairment.
Yeah, depending on like if one was in a wheelchair, how would that work? Do I put them at a desk or do I bring in a table, etc.? And I have had students with wheelchairs where I did have to, as soon as I realized
Easily
they were in a
navigate.
wheelchair, yeah, order them from the office a table. When I didn't previously have one. But the biggest question is, can they navigate? Not can we make it where they can sit down and not have to move? Like we want them to navigate, right? Their physical impairment
Yes.
should not be a limitation to what they can
Easily,
and can't do in the classroom. So we're going to make sure that the classroom is easy to navigate. There are no
easily gonna
barriers.
navigate.
Yeah,
Yes.
nothing to trip them up. So ensuring that all students, including those with physical impairments, can navigate the room independently with minimal disruption. So the goal is not to make it easy for them not to have to move around. The goal is to make it easy for them to move around independently.
I would like to add to this a little curiosity. When I did my degree in occupational therapy, we have to do the practice for to go to the mall and using a wheelchair in the store
Yes.
and check all the type of I don't know how to call,
Like the
but the
facilities, like the
product,
facilities.
yeah, if
Oh,
the
okay, yeah.
facility was good for the navigator, and we need to point all the problems in that direction. So, and we have to go through the store and say, okay, here is impossible to get because it's very narrow, or here is
Right.
not accessible. It was very interesting because we work from the view of the a special need person.
Absolutely. It changed the perspective.
Exactly.
And we're talking domain two, which is all about the classroom environment, the classroom learning. You don't feel like the mall is made for you if you're in a wheelchair and you can't get to things or it's difficult. This doesn't feel like a
Right.
place that was made with you in mind. Imagínate, imagine the classroom that you are in and you can't navigate around because your teacher
Mhm.
hasn't modified it to accommodate you. You are not
Yep.
going to feel like you are represented in that classroom community. Apart from not being able to fulfill, the academic portion of it, you are going to feel disconnected from that classroom community. So making sure that we are being mindful, and I love that example that you gave me, because I'm sure what it did was illustrate to you. You already knew, obviously, there's limitations with people who are have physical disabilities, wheelchairs, walkers, etc. And but to feel it, to live it, to work through it is something different, right? And you get a deeper understanding. And that's what our students do when we give them hands-on, real world, stuff to do. Okay, so thank you for that example. So let's take a look
You're
at this
welcome.
one. A middle school has 3 feeder elementary schools. To ensure that all students feel connected on their first day of school, the science teacher plans small group activities in her classroom. Which is the best method to seat students? Okay, let's go back and identify what is important for us to pay attention to.
Elementary school. No, okay. Middle.
Is talking about the first day of school.
Right. First day of school. For what kind of school?
Middle school with 3 feeder elementary schools.
Right. So these are 3 different elementary communities, feeder communities. And it's always interesting to see the sixth graders because they do come from different, elementary communities and they have their little friends, but then they're immersed amongst each other and they have, in this case, 3 times the amount of peers to get to know. And so to ensure that students feel connected, um, on the first day of school, the teacher plans small group activities in her classroom. And so we're talking about the best method to seat the students. So A allows students to choose their seats and pick their groups. B seats students in groups of 3 that allow a student from each school. C seats students in alphabetical rows and assign groups for the activities by row. D, seat students in groups of 3 with all 3 from the same school. So we've analyzed, we've read the answer choices. Remember, we always give each answer choice its due diligence. We are going to weight it for, and then if we find it wanting, we're going to eliminate it. So what can we eliminate because it's not the best method to use to seat the students? And if what you're trying to do, if the goal is to ensure that these 3 feeder schools feel connected on that first day of school.
Like C is pretty random. It's that has nothing to do with this particular goal.
Right. And so alphabetical rows, and then I don't even know how that would work. It would be a pretty big group if you did it by row. So it's totally out. That's not the best way. And it's that there's no connection or anything there. There's just
D.
D.
Letter
Yeah.
D.
Why can we eliminate D and bet
You,
ourselves $5?
yeah,
That's not it.
because you eliminate the possibility the student have new connection with the new student and new
Right.
experiences.
You are limiting them with students that they know. And so in order to feel connections, you have to make
Mhm.
connections. So
Absolutely.
so this is going to limit their connections to what they've already connected with. We can absolutely eliminate D. And we're left with A and B.
A.
Yeah, and this is always a terrible idea to let the students
Yeah.
their group. It just always is. And also, like I said before, the students are resources for each other. If you let them and they don't know that they are, you know what strengths, weaknesses, and gifts they bring to the table. And so using those groups, carefully crafting them, mindfully putting them together so that it is the most meaningful, they get the most out of the activity is best practice always. Never say, okay, guys, get in groups of 4 is a recipe for disaster. And yeah, so heterogeneous seating arrangement would encourage students to get to know students from other campuses. It would, encourage the students to make connections with those students from other feeder schools that they're unfamiliar with. Last but not least, number 10, Mr. Ramirez has overheard several students complain about the current instructional activity. One student said to another, I'm just bored with this stuff. I don't understand why it's important and I don't care to know. Mr. Ramirez admits to himself that he has the same feelings towards the material and decides to get through the instructional unit as quickly as possible. Of the following, which is most likely the cause of students' lack of interest in the material? Okay, what's happening here and what is the question asking us? What keywords do we have to pay attention to?
Well, like
Cause the
the students
cause.
aren't they're bored with the material, and the teacher says that he's bored with the material too. So I think that states the problem right there.
Yeah, that's a big problem, and it's most likely the cause. I'm telling you guys, we don't have to say it. Student, my son, one of my sons, I have 2 sons, but my middle child, he is like an angel. And when he says a teacher doesn't like him, I find it so hard to believe. And I'm like, what did she say? Well, nothing. Like but you can feel a vibe and students can super feel vibes. They're very in tune with nonverbals. So if you are not digging the material or the lesson, they're going to absolutely feel it. So we have A, Mr. Ramirez has not presented the material in a coherent manner, and students have become confused about the purpose and expectation of the instructional activities. B, Mr. Ramirez does not exhibit an excitement and enthusiasm for the material, and his students have adopted his attitude towards the instructional activities. C, Mr. Ramirez has not been able to relate the instructional material to the students' past experiences, and the students are having trouble understanding the instructional activity. D, Mr. Ramirez has not adequately planned the instructional unit, and the activities do not relate to the instructional goals or past instructional units. What can we eliminate? Because that's not what's happening here. Right, A. I don't think that he, you know, you explained it incoherently and left them confused. That's not it. D, not adequately plan instructional unit. There's no indication that he didn't adequately plan this. We know he thinks it's boring, and that it will affect. So let's go ahead and eliminate C. Mr. Ramirez has not been able to relate that didn't talk about the students and he had difficulty relating anything. Nothing was said about that. What we do know is that he hasn't been exhibiting excitement and enthusiasm. And I'm telling you, we are modeling 8 hours a day, 5 days a week for our students. We're never off. Even if we're not actively modeling a knowledge concept or skill, we are always modeling our behavior as human beings that deal with frustration or difficulties or dropping their coffee. How will you react to that and treat people after that? They're watching and they will pick up and adopt those behaviors. The value and importance of public school teachers cannot be understated. You guys are the most valuable players of society. Um, our students learn so much more than just academics from you. And I thank you so, so much we did it, guys. We got
Yes,
100.
we passed. We
We
passed.
we did it. And I was all thinking we were gonna get to 2 modules this one last period. Calm down, calmate. I'm next time we will finish with domain 2. We'll do the classroom management. There's only those 2 classroom environment, classroom management sections. Then we'll be done with domain 2 and jump into domain 3, which is about the application of domain 1, the application of the plan, the communication that we use to ask questions, to have discussions, to create deeper understanding with our students. So we will continue there, guys. Congratulations. We're on the board for 100% on our quiz. It's mostly been 90%. And because some of those are really tricky. And you guys have a beautiful rest of your weekend and your Saturday. I know it's going to be Thanksgiving on Thursday. I wanted to talk to you guys. Did you want to not do Wednesday night and do Saturday? Or did you still want to do Wednesday evening before Thanksgiving? I know you're going to be with your families. I want you to spend time. So let's do a little sort of class vote. Did you guys want to take next Wednesday off and then on Saturday, a couple of days after Thanksgiving, we'll meet up and we will finish up with domain 2.
I like Wednesday off.
Yeah, I think Wednesday off. Like people are cooking and getting ready, traveling.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I appreciate you guys so much. Y'all are the real MVPs. And I will see you next Saturday.
Bye. Enjoy your break. Well-deserved break.
Absolutely. Thank you guys so, so much.
Thank you very much. For my first experience was amazing.
Oh, I'm so glad. I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Thank you, thank you. Just need to know how to get access to the 240, but you said